Good evening, everyone. Pat Buxa here. I am the executive director of Austin, Texas Musicians, and we are proud to be back here once again tonight to share some really valuable information about voting. As we get to the polls, over these next couple of weeks, we want to make sure that everyone out there is fully informed and prepared with all the best information to vote with all the education that you need, and also to show up to the polls and vote safely. And so, once again, we're honored to be joined by our friends with the League of Women Voters Austin area, and also with our friends over at Jolt TX. And so, we're going to bring those folks in here in just a moment to give us this great information tonight. But before we do that, I want to bring in our Atxm Votes team, who has been, they have been working so hard over these last months to register voters and to get all this information out there to you guys to make sure that you're fully aware of everything you need to make your decision at the polls. So without any further ado, I will bring those guys in right now. We've got Scott Strickland, our Atxm Votes team lead, and we've also got Christina Flores, also with our Atxm Votes team. And thank you guys for being here tonight. We're so glad to be back here delivering this information to everyone.
Yeah,
thanks, Pat. Hey.
Awesome, yeah. And what do I think when we first started to put together this idea for the show, I think we wanted to really focus on getting some good information out there. What do you guys hope to get out of the show tonight?
Yeah, I feel like what I was thinking was just really being able to find like all the resources I need if I'm at the polls, if I can't get to the polls, like if what do I need to know if I have some COVID anxiety? Will it be safe? What does that look like? Yeah, I feel like just as much access to information as possible.
Absolutely. How about you, Scott?
Well, I mean, I think that, because of a lot of, contentions and stuff that are out there. I mean, this, you have a pandemic for one thing. You've got a lot of, misinformation going around out there about, how to vote or where to vote. There's a lot of just really serious misinformation around what is happening with this election. And so just to kind of clarify some of these things, I think is going to be great. Plus, we're also looking at some kind of real historic turnout in terms of the numbers that we're seeing from the Secretary of State's office.
Absolutely. Well, let's hope so. I think that's really a powerful testament to how important this election is, and the fact that, even us in our small way, we help, empower people to get out here and exercise their political power, right? So, but let's get right into the information. I think we have a lot of stuff to cover tonight, and I'm going to pull myself out of the room and let you guys introduce our guest, and we can start to get into it. So I'll say adieu and let you guys start to get into the information. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thanks, Pat. Christina, how you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good. Okay, so we've got Miss Maria Renee Morales from Jolt. She's coming into the room now. Hey, Maria, how you doing? How's your day going so far?
Good, thank you. And yours?
It's going well. It's been extremely busy, as I'm sure yours has been as well. But it's been really, really, really good.
Yeah, good.
So I'll just get I'll get right to it. So as of today, there are 306,633 ballots that have been cast for early voting in this election. We are 9 days into early voting in Texas, in Travis County, specifically in Travis County. With those numbers, we are already seeing basically 65% of all of the ballots that were cast in the 2016 election. So this is set up to be seriously a historic turnout. I want to ask you, if I'm a first-time voter, what could I expect being a first-time voter during a pandemic, during a historic turnout, with all the information that's out there and misinformation that's out there?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So first of all, that's amazing, right? Like a lot of people are going out and casting their ballots, so that's amazing. So one of the first things that you're going to be like that you can expect, of course, is excitement, because imagine all those people going out and vote. Another thing is that the longs will like might be long, depending if you go early voting, depending on your polling location, or if you go on election day. Another thing that you might be expecting is that in Travis County there's new machines, so you might be able to experience different machines, like machines. And also another thing that you have to do before going out and vote is do your research, because you can bring your sample ballot, so to remember all of the names of the people that you want to vote for, because on this election you're not only voting for the president and vice president, but you're also voting for a lot of local positions, local candidates, and you have to vote down the ballot. It's really important for you to vote for other candidates or other local positions. So do your research, go to vote411.org, or you can go to your county election website to find your sample ballot. You can print it. You can also go to the League of Women Voters and Nonpartisan Guide and see the candidates that are running on your area. And another thing is that you might want to double check if you're registered to vote, and you can do it on different websites. You can do it on the county election website as well, on the Secretary of State. So you are 100% ready to go. And also find your polling location, because for early voting, you can vote in different voting locations. But if you are going to go on election day, you will have a specific polling location, so you will have to do your research before going. But one of the things that you might be expecting is like excitement and long lines.
Excellent.
I actually have a follow-up question. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like a lot of us think that everyone's registered or we're voting, but there are actually a lot of people that I've heard that this really is their first time voting. So what would I like? What should I not do? Like, am I allowed to wear like my candidate's shirt, or like what are some things that I should not
Yes.
do when I get there?
So something to clarify before I move to your question, Christina, is that you can vote in Travis County. You can vote in any polling location for early voting and election day.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So one of the things that you shouldn't bring for like on when you go out and vote, you cannot wear your any political or endorsing materials. So if you are a supporter for this candidate, you cannot wear like any mask that says that talks about the candidates, or any T-shirts, like any materials about a candidate. You cannot wear them. You can also have you cannot use your phone. So don't use your phone either. So that's one of the two major things that you cannot do whenever you're in your polling location.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. And I have one of the questions that I have is what is the difference between the voting machines like now versus the voting machines back then? Is there like some huge discrepancy between those, or is it just like are they just like updated voting machines?
I think Jennifer will have a better answer for that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Hey, Jennifer.
Okay, a couple of more questions here. So, I can use my what can I use to take to the polls with me that I can say, hey, I'm here. Here's my identity. I'm registered. I'm ready to vote. Ready to cast my ballot. Does that make sense? Am I making sense there?
Yes. I will answer that. Yes, so you have 7 different IDs that you can use.
Right.
Here in Texas. So you can use your driver's license, your passport, your military ID, Texas election ID, your handgun license, your U.S. citizen certificate, or your Texas personal ID. And you
Gotcha.
cannot use your, like here in Texas, you cannot use your student ID.
Okay. Right. Got it. Okay. Thank you. That's excellent. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Jennifer, could you speak to a little bit more about like the voting machines and what people can expect?
Okay, sure. The new voting machines are more accessible than the old ones. They're a touch screen. They're a little easier to use for people with disabilities. The old machine, if you remember, kind of reminded you of like the old iPod click wheel where you kind of scroll
Oh
around
yeah.
your choice. This one's much easier to navigate. The other thing that's different about the new machine is that when you go and check in, you'll receive an actual paper ballot that's on this kind of heat transfer paper, kind of like a receipt, but a little thicker. That'll have your personal information at the top and it'll scan into the machine. And as you click through your choices, at the very end, the machine will print a copy of what you put on your ballot. So in addition to this electronic copy that stays in the voting machine, there's that paper copy that is the backup that is actually going to be saved at the polling location. So that way an audit can be conducted to make sure that they can prove if somebody is hacked into the system. So there's an extra level of security, and there's an actual extra level of you being able to ensure that you casted the vote that you wanted specifically. The click wheel was a little difficult, especially in times when we used the click wheel, there was an option to vote straight party, and there were often glitches related to the straight party ticket voting and things going back and forth. So straight party ticket voting is out. New voting machines are in. Piece of paper that you'll review at the end and then submit into a little lockbox.
And I can't remember if they had these, I think last year, but I remember
they did.
Okay, they did. So okay, because I remember one of the polling workers, they kind of yelled at me a little bit. They're like, "You're not done yet. Make sure you take that piece of paper."
Do not put the paper in the trash. It goes into the little. There's like a specific box that you scan it into.
Exactly right, as they said, and that's what you're. That's basically how you're casting your vote. So yeah, very good information on that. Thank you. Good to see you again, Jennifer.
Good to see you guys too.
Okay, so where is it possible that I can actually drop off my ballot? If I have a mail-in ballot, where is it possible that I could drop that off?
That's a county specific. There is a recent there's a recent order passed that there is one ballot box per county, and it's not a drop-off box. You actually hand deliver your ballot at the spot specified by your county. So in Travis, it's going to be the main tax office. They've got a great drive-through setup for you to drop off your ballot, hand deliver your ballot. You have to show your ID. You can't drop off ballots for, say, your family and friends. Everybody who is dropping off needs to be there with their ID to drop it. And Williamson County has the same thing, but you'll find that information on your county website if you are in Texas.
Gotcha. Okay. And so let's say, for instance, that I received my ballot by mail, but maybe I want to, I'd rather just vote in person. What's the procedure?
That is an option. What you want to do is take your ballot. If you've received your ballot by mail and you decide you want to go in person, take that ballot with you and surrender it when you get to the polls. Because what's going to happen is when you go and they scan your voter ID and check that you're you, the system will be flagged that you were a ballot by mail recipient. So if you have the ballot, it's best to surrender it. That makes everything easy audit-wise. If you don't have the ballot to surrender, or somehow there was some paperwork that didn't get filled out in the in-between, and you don't have that on you, what's going to happen is they'll say you received a ballot by mail. You'll have to explain what happened with it, or that you don't have it to surrender. And what might happen is that they will allow you to vote provisionally. That means that they'll allow you to vote, but your vote won't count until they can conduct the audit that proves that you haven't submitted your ballot by mail. This is what they do to ensure that you don't vote twice. So don't panic if they say you got a ballot by mail. Just let them know what the situation is. Like, the mail is kind of slow or late. Some people have had trouble getting their mail. So yeah, just be transparent. If it turns out that they've sent you something related to your ballot by mail, bring that with you just so you have something to surrender at that time.
Yeah, I think I've gotten a lot of, I've run it by family too, run into that situation where they've got some correspondence via mail, but it wasn't a ballot, and they had in their notes that they were that they had received a ballot by mail, and so they were worried about not being able to vote. They ended up voting provisionally. Is that what that? Because I think so on the ballot, is that on the top corner, that little box there? Is that what that is? Like checking off like whether that's provisional?
I'm not sure how they noted. I haven't seen how it gets noted on that little the top part, but there is a note that it needs to be audited at a later time. So they have ways of tracking it.
Gotcha. And with the mail-in ballots, I actually did my mail-in ballot. I did an application by mail this year, received my ballot. It was a pretty serious process. I mean, you have to make sure you fill it out. You got to sign it. You got to file you got to do all the information to a T. It goes inside this pink envelope, and then I actually went to hand deliver it. I hand delivered it at the polling location, and then they were like, "Oh, well, you need your white envelope. That's got to go inside." And so you put the pink envelope inside the white envelope, and then you have to sign the back of the envelope, acknowledging that that's you, and then your signature has to match your ID. So yeah, that was
a process. And if you do get assistance with your ballot, if for some reason you have a disability, or if you have a translator, that person also has to sign that ballot information as well. And you want to make sure you do that in blue or black ink. Make sure that you don't do anything that would somehow invalidate your ballot. So read the instructions, they're a little tricky. If you have questions, call your elections office for assistance.
Gotcha. Yeah. Very, very.
I also saw that you have to have the signature match exactly too, otherwise it wouldn't count.
Yeah, that is how measures in place to eliminate as much related to voter fraud as possible. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so okay, so kind of moving on here a little bit. Where exactly is it that I can? I know we kind of touched this a little bit, but where can I vote in person? Where and when can I vote in person?
Oh, well, you can early vote right now. Early voting is open it started on the 13th and it ends on the 30th. The polls are mostly open from 7 to 7. Sunday, they have shorter hours. It's best to check your county website. Both Travis and Wilco have wait time maps. These are great. They usually tell you what the wait time is in kind of 20-minute increments. Let's see, on some nights I believe it's the last 2 days of early voting, Travis is going to have some of the mega centers open until 9 p.m.
Wow.
And just note that since COVID, we've had a bit of a change up to our available polling locations, as many of the libraries are open for curbside only. So if you're used to going to vote in your November elections at a school or a library, those may not be available. So always check your county website. That is the best source of information to find out which polling locations are available to you.
Yeah. And also another thing to note is that if you're in the line by 7 p.m., you can don't leave the line, stay on the line, because you're going to be able to vote if you're in the line by 7 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah. Thank you. And okay, so let's get into a little bit of maybe things aren't safe at the polling places. Maybe there's voter intimidation going on. Maybe there's some things. Let's break up a few scenarios and see if we can work some of this out here. So what if there are people at the polling location and they're not wearing masks? Is that okay?
That's a tricky question. So we're going to start off with, is the rules for COVID in Texas. If you look at the executive order issued by Governor Abbott, the polling places and churches are exempt from the mask order. So people are not required to wear masks at the polling location.
Gotcha. During a pandemic.
Yeah, You're not required, but we're encouraging everyone to still wear the mask, to still keep their 6 feet apart, because there's
Yes,
so many, like,
there are social distancing and precautions in place. There is an order from the Secretary of State with regards to how the polling places are going to operate. So, for example, the people inside, they have the plexiglass screens. The communal machines are being wiped down in between users. When you go in, there is hand sanitizer, and they have these little like fingertip covers, and that they try to minimize the amount of contact between people and surfaces once you're on the inside. And the lines, as much as the poll workers can control, you're 6 feet apart in the line.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Nice. Gotcha.
Yeah, I had a really good experience voting this time around. The line was just so like wrapping around a couple of different buildings, and everybody was masked. Some of them had face shields. They were all 6 feet apart, and everything was run super efficiently, and just in and out once you're already voting. So that for someone who has a lot of COVID anxiety, that was really reassuring for me, and my fiance too, who is like nervous about contracting COVID or being in close spaces or anything like that. So kudos to Travis County because everything is looking like very efficient and pretty safe too.
Yeah, that's excellent. And okay, so while we're on the topic of masks, can they make me remove my mask to like reveal my identity?
Yes, that is if they are. The point of having your ID is to verify that you're you, and if your mask complicates that, they can ask you to take it off, but you may put it back on.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I have some friends that have been like, they haven't experienced that. Like, people haven't asked them to take off their mask, so I think it depends.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it, but that is something they can ask you to do in the same way that, at any place that they're verifying your ID, they can ask you. It's like going through TSA, how sometimes they make you remove your shoes. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. So I think that we've already kind of touched on if you have a disability, that's kind of a case by case basis if they allow for you to go to the front of the line. Is that right?
Yes, that's on a case by case basis. The election official, it's at their discretion to allow you to skip to the front of the line if you have a disability. If you do have a disability and it is going to be difficult for you to get inside, the best thing that you can do is A, request a ballot by mail, or B, request curbside voting. And the best way to make sure that you are prepared for curbside voting, especially if you're traveling alone, you want to call your county elections office and let them know that you will require curbside. For example, if you are traveling with somebody and they're able to walk inside for you and alert the official, that's one thing. But yeah, if you're alone, it's best to call ahead.
Gotcha. And what about if we already talked about if you are going to use the bathroom, like if you step out of line to use the bathroom, you basically lose your place in line if the people aren't kind enough to let you back skip, right, or something like that. Is that?
Yeah. There's no rules. It's the kind of the same way as if you're waiting in a long line on the day of the iPhone release. It's basically your line rules as to whether or not they'll let you out and get back in. I do know that there are some nonprofits out there that are helping out in the polls, just supporting voters, since there's just so many and the lines are long. There might be people there with water. Some of these people are offering to hold your line spot. But once again, it's not a requirement for you to be able to leave the line and come back. The only thing regarding staying in the line is that if you're in the line before the polls close, they have to allow you to vote.
Gotcha.
I also know several mothers and fathers who are, maybe are a single parent or, don't have anyone to take care of their kid and, or maybe can't because they're, COVID. Would I be able to bring my kids to vote with me? Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can bring them.
Okay. And they'll just like walk with you. You don't have to.
Yeah, your kid is your kid is your own responsibility. Kind of like when you take a kid to the store, that you must just keep them within your area. So
Okay.
you basically just take your kid with you, and they just kind of toddle behind, and you just need to keep them close. I will say that you'll want to try and find least crowded time to go to the polls, because I know that what they're trying to do is limit the amount of people on the inside. So if you say come in with your 5 kids, that will delay some other people coming in. That's been one of the things that many of my friends are a little skittish about bringing theirs, because I have a lot of like great mom friends who are very excited to get their kids to see what voting looks like. So maybe this year might not be the year to take your kiddos on the inside to let them see democracy at work, just because of the COVID restrictions and social distancing.
Gotcha. It looks like we got a question from Graham, who's also helping us out from time to time with ATXM. Okay, so let's see. I have a friend volunteering at a polling location in Hayes County. She said that there were 2 individuals who the system told her had already gotten access codes related to those DL numbers. She was not allowed, to let them vote. Any idea how this could happen? Okay, that's a head scratcher. You don't want to take that? It seems like maybe their driver's license was already checked in or something on the voter rolls or something, and maybe they weren't cleared or something.
I'm not sure, but maybe Jennifer, can they ask for a provisional ballot?
They should be able to ask for a provisional ballot, so that way at least they would be able to vote at that point in time. Yeah, I would ask for a provisional ballot until that gets verified that it wasn't a glitch in the system with the scanner related to a driver's license duplicate.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I would ask for a provisional ballot, and if that is not if they have issues with Hayes County, if Hayes County is not allowing them to do something, I would definitely check in with the Election Protection Hotline, because they have legal staff that would be able to provide more guidance. That would be 866-OUR-VOTE. And in Texas, that's going to be the Texas Civil Rights Project that's managing that program. So yeah, they would have legal staff to be able to better advocate for you in that situation.
That's great.
And just on that topic, just talking about people haven't needed to cast provisional ballots, or in some case there may be like some kind of voter intimidation. Is that also, the Election Protection Hotline, would that also be a good number to call?
Yes, if you can get something resolved with your own election staff, like usually what happens if there's something that happens at my polling location, for example, there was a time that there was somebody who was electioneering and they were actually too close to the election site. They were in that 100-foot barrier. Usually the signs end at 100 feet, but they were closer to the stairs. So I reported it actually to the election office staff, but if they were unable to respond to it, I would call the election hotline. But always start off with your election worker. That they'll escalate it inside first. Okay.
And I have one more question for both of you. And it's not on our little notes here, but I want to ask something real quick. How hard or how easy is it to basically, how easy is it or how hard is it to commit voter fraud? Can both of you speak to that? Like, if I wanted to basically cast my ballot twice, is that something that's possible?
I don't. I mean, if you try to, okay, so there's a situation right now where some people have received multiple ballot by mails. They may have received one and then a second one will come with a correction. There is a chance that, for example, if you fill one out and send it in and then you send in another one, what's going to happen is that as they're recording and logging this information, duplicates will come up in the system. There'll be an audit conducted, which is why with so many voters this year, there's basically going to be a longer period of time where they're trying to reconcile and make sure that things aren't in there twice and something odd doesn't come up. So the election results are probably going to be delayed just because the amount of auditing work they're going to have to do to make sure, say that person that voted provisionally, did they turn in all the information that went with it? Or, in the case of this driver's license situation where somebody's already gone through.
Right. And so basically what you're saying is it's not very easy because of the audit process that has to happen. It's not very easy for someone just to randomly commit voter fraud. Am I getting that?
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's impossible.
Right, not impossible.
Someone will always find something new, but with all the measures put into place for the vote by mail and for our new election machinery,
Sure.
Highly unlikely. The magic 8 ball would say highly unlikely.
Yeah. I think it's also important to underline the fact that, for anyone out there who may be considering that or, doing that, that's also a really good way to wind up in, that's a federal offense, right? And
yes.
So,
yes.
anyone to wind up in jail. So we'd highly discourage any action similar to that. I was going to ask you guys a question because I think that, the classic scenario that I go through every year that I've been doing since I'm 18 years old when I was voting in the first Bush's, term, I guess, when I get to the polls, I'm usually pretty educated about what's happening on the national level. But like you said a few minutes ago, Maria, then we get down in all the state and county stuff. And I'm not always maybe as informed as I should be when it comes to some of those different candidates. And so I think that, you guys mentioned a couple of ways that we can get even more educated. And obviously you can't you can't reference your phone in the polls. You can't look at, stuff like that. But I believe we've determined that you can actually print out some information that you can take into the polls with you.
Mm-hmm.
What would be a way that we want people to do that?
What can be a way, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, so you can actually print your sample ballots, and if you go to your county website, so you can go to vote411.org, and you can find your ballot, who's going to be on your ballot. And again, and if you want more information about the candidates who are going to be on your ballot, you can go to the League of Women Voters Nonpartisan Guide because they have an excellent one in a lot of, I think you have it in English and in Spanish.
We actually have it in 4 languages this year. We have it in, we've added, in addition to English and Spanish, we have Vietnamese and Chinese.
Wow.
So you can, there's a lot of websites that can, 411 on your county website, and you can find your sample ballot, and you can actually bring it to the polls and just copy it.
Oh, that's great to know. And actually we did, as a group, we kind of printed one of those out the other day. And it was really valuable, I thought, to see all of that information in one place and to really be able to reference, that as we, kind of drill down into some of the local elections and things like that. But I also wanted to ask Jennifer, I think every election cycle, the League of Women Voters puts out a voting guide that really breaks down all that candidate information and even shows, kind of some information about where candidates stand on certain things and like that. I don't want to, speak for the work you guys have put in, but maybe you can tell us just a little bit more about that voting guide and how people can access that.
So there's a couple ways to get to our voters guide. It's essentially like consumer reports. You know, if you're going to go out and buy a washer and dryer, you'll be like, okay, I'm interested in this one and this one, and you want to look at them side by side to see, you know, which one is, you know, the one that meets your needs the most. So that is a lot of what the voter's guide looks like. What we have for each of the races, most of the major races, I think that we don't have like some of like the tiny ones related to like, say, like a Barton Springs related level, but we have everything down to like the city level. And what we do is that we ask the candidates questions that are important to the community, and we'll give each candidate for each race the same questions. That way you can look at them side by side and see which one aligns most with your values. And the voter's guide is accessible either through the League of Women Voters website, or if you go to votefor11.org, you can treat it a lot more like that Consumer Reports, you know, buying guide, in a way where you can actually click the compare button next to two candidates so you can see things side by side, versus the print is a little slightly more scattered. And that way, if you go on votefor11.org and make all your choices there, it'll print out that selection of what you picked, and you'll get a personalized, like, it'll email your selections to you, and it'll print it out, and it'll go to maybe like 2 sheets of paper. I will say, do not wait until you get to the polls to kind of figure out what your candidate choices are, because there are a lot of candidates on this ballot. And if you're in Travis County, we have a couple of propositions as well. Yeah. So you want to do some quick research while you're at home, and have the time to kind of make some informed decisions. You know, ask a friend. At the local level, you probably know a lot of these people, or know people that work with them. Another thing to check out is nonprofits and grassroots organizations. The League doesn't do endorsements for nonpartisan, but there are organizations out there that you might be, you know, donating money to, that have like a specific like stance on something. For example, we have like a railroad commission person on the ballot, and so that they affect the oil and gas industry. So you might look to, say, industry organizations or environmental groups to find out what the candidates are saying, or what their backgrounds and views are.
Yeah, you know,
Jennifer. Oh, go ahead.
Christina, you first.
No, I was just going to comment and just say that I loved using that vote411.org and what you were speaking to, that like kind of consumer report type thing. Because I did that, and because I didn't, like Pat was just saying, I kind of knew some, you know, city council folks that I was interested, but who was in my district, who was going to be running for, I guess it was ASD board, what's Prop A versus Prop B. And I was able to use like that comparison feature. And really, I just felt like it was so accessible, super easy to navigate. And I just felt the most informed I'd have been, just because I was like, this is such an accessible format. So I really appreciate that. And I hope other folks use that too.
And then one thing I forgot to mention, that like now that we're in a Zoom era, it's a little weird to not be doing things in person, but we did the League hosted candidate forums, along with many other groups out there that have hosted candidate forums. Ours were specifically for the city council elections, but I know that there are you know, education related groups that did them for the ISD Board of Trustees. So like now's a great time to like hop on YouTube and just do like a quick Google search on like candidate forums, and you can do a quick listen. If you don't have time to read, you can treat it like a podcast. Other great ways to stay informed. Yeah, just checking out what's going on Facebook Live. There are a lot of people who are hosting lives even this late in the game, because you know, we still have a whole week of early voting, actually a little over a week of early voting, and then election day. So it's not too late to learn about the positions you aren't quite sure about.
Well, thank you for saying that. I was going to add to that, Jennifer, because, you know, Austin, Texas Musicians, we are an advocacy organization, and certainly we want always for, you know, to get to really enact our musicians to you know, kind of activate them to vote and use their political power. But on the same token, we don't ever want to influence or tell anyone how they should vote. Yeah. You know, we just want to educate them in that way. And I think to that very point, you know, we encourage all of our members to look at the city council records and to see how they voted on issues that directly affected music this year. There were so many of them this year.
Mhm.
And so, to that point, I think it would be really valuable for anyone who's watching this and who wants to get a little more educated on those city council positions that are up for this election. Where can they go to watch those YouTube forum videos that you guys have?
Let me dig around for the link, because the link to the candidate forums is actually on the city website now.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, because they were broadcast on the city's channel ATXN Live, and where the city council meetings are.
Yes.
Broadcast there in addition to a couple of other places. So let me.
Okay. I'm very familiar with ATXN Live. It seems like I'm on there every day with the music commission meetings and council meetings and all that stuff. We're very plugged into city politics, as you guys may have gathered. So yeah, that would be great. I think if we have that resource to offer people. Scott and Christina, do we have any more questions while Jennifer's looking for that information?
Yeah, I actually. Oh, Maria, did you have something to say?
Yes, I wanted to add something really fast that we didn't touch on, and something that, well, with Jolt, we work with the Latinx community.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to remind people that the ballot is only in English, but you can actually bring assistance if you need help. Like if your mom, if your abuela, your tío, your tía need assistance because the ballot is in English, you can actually help them. Yes, you will need to sign an affidavit, but you can, someone can actually help that person that might not speak English.
So the ballots are actually only available in English. I did not realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we've got that information out there. Can you tell us a little more about what Jolt TX does? I think I know a little more about the League of Women Voters, but how do you guys?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So we are a nonprofit organization that is nonpartisan. So we stand for the Latinx community. We want to mobilize them to register people to vote, to register them to vote, but to actually change that culture of not voting, not being involved in politics,
Sure.
thinking that we don't deserve a place on the table. So we actually want to be on the table. We want to create a new table and be there, right? So we want to create leaders in our communities, and also to mobilize around climate justice, student debt, immigration, and racial justice.
Excellent. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
I'm so glad to learn more about you guys.
Yes. And we're actually doing phone banking. We, like I said, we're nonpartisan, so we are not endorsing any candidates. So we're just doing phone banking to remind people to go out and vote every Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 4 to 6 and 6 to 8.
Excellent.
And if you want more information, you can go to our website, again, joltux.org.
Excellent. That's great information. Thank you so much for that, Maria.
Mm-hmm.
And Jennifer, I don't know if you have that information handy as well on those city council candidates.
One thing I was going to say, as far as, the nonprofit work that a lot of organizations are doing, I guess that Jolt is actually doing a good job because, 97% of people that are registered, that are able to vote, are registered in Travis County. So that's, that's saying something there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're all doing a really good job with all that.
Uh-huh. And then I think Jennifer did find that information for us. Jennifer, you want to comment on that?
Okay, so it's kind of tricky, but if you go to the ATXN video archives and you can dig around through the videos, they have candidate statements in there under the videos section.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'll put that banner up here in one moment as well.
So yeah, it's the ATXN video archive under videos.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Great.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, any other questions, Scott or Christina or Jennifer or Maria? Do you guys have anything else that you guys would like to comment on or cover today?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to say, like, there's so many people that are voting right now. People had already voted. There's also people that are undecided on whether they want to go and vote, or or I don't know. What would you say to them, or how would you encourage folks to vote? I know also, Maria Rene, that I think Latinos are probably I think they're the largest racial minority that are eligible to vote, and a lot of times we don't go out and vote. So how would you encourage our comunidad to go and get out the vote?
Yeah, again, like we are like Texas, like 40% of the population in Texas is Latino. 1 in 3 eligible voters is Latino. So we are out there. But the thing again is that we think that we don't deserve to be politically involved. We don't deserve to be on the table, but we actually do. And the votes, like your vote counts, because there are a lot of races that are like tie or someone else win because like 50 votes or 90 votes, so they actually count, they actually matter. And maybe, like I said at the beginning of this live stream, you have to vote down the ballot because local elections matter, and they actually decide the earth you breathe, the water you drink, how much rent do you pay. So you're actually making a change if you put people in power, right? And you can hold them accountable. Like if you put someone in power, you can hold them accountable. So I will say to the people that don't want to vote to actually that their vote counts, that they should go out and vote, that they should do research, and if they don't like something in their community, they can actually change it if they go out and vote.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Maria. We are at 90, I don't remember how high, very close to 100% registered in Travis County. And we have that many people registered because, number one, we have a very amazing group of volunteer deputy registrars who made it really easy to get people registered. But now comes the part where you gave yourself the option to be able to vote. Now it's the time for you to make your choice and get out there. So the best thing that you can do is get educated on as much as you can. I know it's intimidating. There's a lot of positions that are really hard. I did some educational webinars for the league this year, and I actually had to learn a lot about some of these positions because they're not quite the same as the federal level. We don't teach civics as well as they could to prepare us to vote. So that's something that the league is focused on right now. So I would suggest learning as much as you can, checking with your friends and family. I mean, you're voting for yourself to find your next set of representatives. And regardless of whether or not you vote for them, whoever wins these races should be held accountable by you, and they should be doing their job for you. Mm-hmm. You live in the little box, and you're your representative. So I would suggest that you vote all the way down, do the best you can. Education, that one's going to be way down at the bottom of the list. So even if you have to skip around, there's probably about 12 judges on there. But at the same time, these people affect your everyday lives more so than the people at the top of the ballot, which is going to be those federal positions that we're most familiar with. The people at the bottom are the ones who are, implementing grant funding. They're implementing things related to schools. So really take a look at what's down there, and check out the League of Women Voters Austin area YouTube channel. We have some civic sessions posted, and we've broken them down into smaller chunks. They're probably about an hour at the most, related to schools, local and county races, state level races. So if there's something that you're not sure of, we try and give a good idea of what these people are supposed to be doing once they're voted into office.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Jennifer. And I guess before we wrap up, it looks like we do have one more question. This one coming from, again, Graham Garner. And can you suggest any specific groups or organizations that are most in need of volunteers before Election Day?
Like the day of the election, or
No, I think before Election Day, I think Graham's asking what organizations need volunteers. How can people help?
yeah. So I know that there's a lot of people doing, like Jolt is doing phone banking, and we're not endorsing anyone. So if they want to join us, that they can join us and do phone banking. But if people are already know their candidates, they can help their candidates. They can phone bank for their candidates. There's also other organizations that actually endorse candidates, so they're also doing phone banking, and like Sunrise Movement, Texas Rising, DSA. So they're actually endorsing, so you can join them and help the candidate, or you can also join phone banking events that are nonpartisan. Again, like Jolt is doing phone banking that is nonpartisan, so if they want to join, jolttx.org.
Awesome.
Yep, the phone banking, definitely big right now, especially because of COVID. There's a lot less door knocking these days. I would check out Texas Civil Rights Project. They run 866 Our Vote, and part of that program is actually having people at the polling locations to provide assistance and let people know what their rights are at the polls. It's nonpartisan. Another thing to check out is if you have a candidate offering assistance at their offices, they are volunteer run as well.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Well, as we wrap up here tonight, I think maybe we can just go around the room and get some closing statements for everybody. What do we hope to accomplish with the work we've all put in with this election? What Jennifer, I think we've talked about a lot of facts today, but what would you like to see happen from all the work you've been putting in?
I'd like to see that people are in it for the long haul. A lot of people became politically active this spring with the start of COVID, and throughout riots and such. More people are heading to the polls, and I would like to see people more engaged after their candidate does or does not win. It's up to us to hold them accountable. It's up to us to implement these propositions if they've passed. Like don't stop, stay engaged. And if you didn't know who to vote for this go around, find out what these guys are supposed to be doing in office and make a better decision next time.
I'm glad you said that, because we're learning very quickly with getting into politics is that once something happens, it doesn't mean it's done. Once a vote passes, that's just really the beginning. So it's so important, even after Election Day, I think, to stay engaged. Maria, what would you like to share with us?
Yeah, so as you might all know or might not know, Texas is not a red state, but it's a non-voting state. So we have to go out there and, like Jennifer was saying, after the election, keep being involved in politics, right? Like there's other elections, local elections happening. So this is not the only election that matters. This is not the only thing that matters right now. That you can actually do other things, and also if you cannot vote, there's other things that you can do if you cannot vote, right? You can, and also next year we have the Texas Ledge, so there's a lot of things happening all the time, right? So keep being involved, and also fight for your community, hold your representatives accountable, and also one day run for office, right? Because we need people that look like us, that understand our struggles, and that will fight for us in positions of power. So that's what we need. We need the community to fight for the community.
That's awesome. Thank you, Maria. Christina, you've been tirelessly putting in so much work on these efforts and making sure that pretty much everything that we relay, any information we relay, we also get out there in Spanish, and I think that's been very valuable. What would you like to see happen as a result of all the work that you've been putting in?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it is access to information. I'm privileged in a lot of ways to have access to a lot of knowledge and resources, and yet I still don't know enough and to make informed, voting decisions sometimes. And through this work, I've learned a lot, and especially through learning more about League of Women Voters. And then I've been following JOLT for a long time because I really love the mission of getting our the Latinx community more involved and really owning their power and using their voice. So I feel like really being able to own that and own that, yes, you do have a right to a seat at the table. And I think a lot of my time has been convincing family who feel like why vote if it didn't work last time, or like they think that their vote doesn't count, or and it just, I think that that is something that I really hope people take away, that yes, they do count, they matter, and that they continue to learn more, and again, sustain these efforts like Jennifer was talking about past this election, because it's not just this, it's we always need to be paying attention. We always need to be getting access to information and sharing those resources with everyone in our community.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christina. And Scott, my hero, my champion, you have been leading this team tirelessly for months now, getting this work done, and you've put in so much work on this, and I want to thank you for this. And I would like you to kind of maybe close it out here with us and sign us off, if you would, and just tell us, what do you're doing all this work, it seems like, from a real place of heart and passion. Why is this so important to you, Scott? What would you like to see happen with this work?
I mean, I think it's what everyone is saying. I think it's just more civic engagement. I think it's voter participation. Like Maria Renee is saying, it's not, Texas is not a red state. It is a non-voting state. We just don't vote because we think that our vote doesn't matter, and the thing is that I believe in so many instances that we have taken our democracy for granted. When back in during the civil rights movement, it was our parents and our grandparents that were in the streets, and they were protesting the injustices that they were seeing in homes and on their televisions, and those movements created change, and they created change around the world. And time has passed that torch on to this generation, and we need to answer the calling that that history has demanded for us to answer. It is just very important that everyone engage in this election. It is very, very, very important. So, thank you.
Thank you, Scott, and
thank you all. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. I think that's it for tonight. And let's just, I wish everyone good luck during this election. Thank you all for your hard work. And we'll see you guys at the polls. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a good night.